on our black and white collection. Check this out. Loving it. Hello everyone, welcome to another insightful tutorial on Lapery College of Fashion YouTube sewing channel. And in today's video, we'll be learning how to go about the drafting, cutting and sewing of a pencil skirt with flounce attached to one side of the front piece. I want to appreciate all my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for always commenting, and if you are yet to subscribe, I'm appealing to you, kindly subscribe to this channel. On this channel, we upload detailed sewing tutorials, and I want you to be part of this family. Now, to do the style at hand, we'll be working with our basic skirt pattern, and here were the patterns that we developed from our last video, where we learned how to draft a pencil skirt with front side slits. That was where we got these patterns from, and I'll be making use of the same pattern. And if you are yet to watch that video, I'll be putting the link in the description box for you to know how we actually arrived at these patterns that I'm going to be making use of. But let me just do a little recap. All we did was to transfer our front pattern, making it double since it's asymmetric. And with the knowledge of our dart manipulation, we actually manipulated our dart here. We turned it to same line, and that was what gave us this. And because we wanted the slits to overlap, we added this lapping allowance. For today's tutorial now, I'll be using the same pattern, but instead of the lapping, since we do not need it, I'll simply fold it backwards. I'll tuck it backwards this way. So by the time I'm placing it on my fabric, I'll be doing it like this, and we are going to be attaching the flounce here, starting from the waist, then somewhere here, then it will drop, and it will still have our opening, the slits at the front here. And for my back piece, this still remains like so without any alteration. But for the waistline now, I intend to finish up this waistline with face in. In that last video, what we did was to pipe, to finish up using the piping method. But for this, we'll be facing it in. So all I'll need to do will be to draft the pattern for the facing. So we'll determine the length of our face in, and I'll be doing about 3 inches. So I'll go ahead to mark it, then transfer it onto another paper. So for the back piece, I'll simply measure 3 inches all the way from the waistline, so 3 inches, and I'll be tracing it out. So this is the length of my facing, and for that of the front piece, I'll go ahead and do the same 3 inches from the side to that of the center front. Just like so. Since what we have here is also what we have here, so I'll just be working with half of the pattern. I'll transfer this portion out, and likewise transfer that of the back out. So I've cut the waistline and likewise the side seam, then tracing this out. By the time I remove the pattern, I'll simply follow the traced outline to cut. So this is what we'll have for our band traced out on another paper like so. And while tracing out, we make sure that the dart legs were also traced out. By the time we do the construction, we place this on fabric. Of course, we are going to be sewing in our dart this way. And likewise, the band there will be no need for the dart. So what we'll do is close it up this way, so that it is not reflecting. I'll hold it down with tape. So here is now the final outcome of the face in for the back, and by the time we'll do the construction on fabric, and placing our facing, it will be the same thing with that of the main body. And likewise for the front piece now, here is the facing traced out. So I'll simply go ahead now and close up the dart legs and hold it down with tape so that our band does not need to carry the darts. So we'll simply trim this off and I have my final outcome. So this is what I'll be having. I properly labeled. This is the center front and here is the side seam. And of course by the time we do the sewing of our darts, we'll be having the same thing. And likewise for this other side that we have actually cut off the dart, by the time we are sewing, this will be sewn in this way. And of course this is my center front, will be placed in like so. You can see this part already intact. So that is our face in. So what we'll do now will be to place this pattern, the main body, on fabric, and be going ahead to cut our face in. Here is the fabric I'll be making use of, and of course to place my pattern I need to check and test my fabric to check the grain line that I'll be using. This is static and while this stretches, so that will be guiding me. So I'll go ahead now to fold and place my pattern on it to cut out adding seam allowances. So having checked my fabric and the grain line, I've gone ahead to place the front patterns this way, adding the necessary seam allowance. And when placing the front piece, because it's asymmetric, this side is actually different from this side. You must make sure you place on the right side of your fabric. This is the right side of my fabric at the surface. This is the wrong side, and for this fabric the wrong side is actually different from the right side. So you place like this on the right side, facing up this way. But for that of the back piece, that's a lot easier. Simply fold your fabric into two, because both sides of the back piece they're actually the same. So I've gone ahead to cut and adding the necessary seam allowances like so. And here, because of the center back tightening, I had to go in this way, and I've simply added about ½ inch seam allowance to about 3/4 at the side seam, because the fabric stretches. But while sewing, I'll be constructing with about 1 inch, which will make it to grip firmly to the body. Then for the inseam, just ½ inch seam allowance, and my hemline seam allowance, and at the waistline ½ inch seam, which will be using the facing to finish up neatly. So I'll go ahead now and cut this to panel. So with this, we are done with the cutting out of our fabric for the main body. I'll go ahead now to cut for the facing, then we'll be coming to draft our flounce. For the facing of the waistline, this is what we have. The center front and the center back is a perfect grain line guiding us to cut. So I've cut out the facing this way, and for this facing, we'll be putting our interfacing to give it a little bit of stability before we use it to finish up the waistline. So that is that. Now for the flounce at the front piece now, we'll be measuring the part where we'll be attaching the flounce. The flounce will be starting right from this waistline down here, and there will still be slit here, and while the flounce will just fall over that slit. And this now we are going to be cutting it in spiral form. For us to draft our flounce, of course, we know that cutting flounce can waste a lot of fabric. For you to now minimize, know the exact length, the width of fabric needed, there's already a formula that I developed, which is L plus R times 2 equals D. And in that place, the L is the length of the flounce that we want to achieve. Then R is the radius. Then times 2 is to multiply to give us the other side. Then the D is now the dimension of fabric. When you use this formula, you'll be able to know what dimension of fabric needed so that you do not waste your fabric. And again, you'll be able to cut your flounce as a flounce, not turning it into frills. If you have too much of an excess to the width of your flounce, you know, sometimes you might now dispose it using gathers or pleats. That is no more flounce but frills. There are times that you want it excess that you gather, but there are times that you just want it to go smooth like that. Maintaining your flounce as flounce, not turning it to frills. So that formula will be guiding you to knowing the amount of fabric and how to actually go about cutting, so that by the time you cut, it will just give you the exact thing, no excess, no wastage. And we already have a flounce paid class. If you want to know more about this, you could join that class, which will be cutting flounce in diverse forms, which will help your understanding a lot. So for this now, I'll simply measure where we'll be attaching the flounce, which is the part, and of course it will be starting from here up to this point. So I'll measure what I'm having. Let me just measure the pattern, not the fabric with the seam, just like this. This is where it will stop. Then the flow over of the flange is what will fall over this end. So I'm having about 15, let me just say 16. That's the part that I'll be attaching. Now for the length, how do I want it long? For this end, I want as much as 8 so that it will actually fall over this region, the slit. While at this region, I just want something about 5 inches. So I'm having 2 different lengths. And that's why in that formula you have L plus R. Then you now have times 2, which means another L plus R. And when you have different lengths, you'll be able to impute the different length. So I'll simply cut now. This is length 16 under the part, then for this end 8 and for this end 5. So I'll just get a straight paper, then we'll cut. So what I'll do now will be to get a starting point this way. Then I'll be drawing another line, squaring like so. So it's on this line now. I'll measure the part. We actually need 16 this way. Then the length of one side is going to be 8 inches, while the length of the other side will be 5 this way. So I'll simply square downward like so, and I'll be connecting these 2 points together this way. So this is what we'll be using now to cut our flounce. We'll simply slash and spread it. Let me first cut it out. So this is what we'll have. So I'll go ahead now to draw my slash lines to create the fullness. So I'll be slashing, slashing, slashing like so. I'll go ahead to spread it out. So having drawn my slash lines, I've gone ahead to actually slash on those lines. Then I number so that I can easily arrange. So what we need to do now will be to place on another paper to spread out. And spreading it out, it now depends on you how full you want it. You can actually spread out at angle 90 this way by placing the first one here and making sure that the last one aligns like this. This is angle 90, and it's also possible for one to spread at angle 180 depending on how full and how you want the flounce, the effect of the flounce, how you want it to come out. So you can actually spread this way, and it's also possible for one to spread it about 360 degrees like so. But when you're doing something of that nature, we need to further slash so that it will be small, then it can spread out easily. And that's the one that I want to do. Something spiral, which might even come in like this, not really meeting up with this one. So I'll go ahead now to further slash so that it can spread out easily. So let me cut each one out this way again. So I've slashed each one further. So I'll be taking the starting point this way, securing it with my gum. Then I'll go ahead now to be spreading out like so, which will give me something spiral this way. So the last one will be somewhere like so this way, and here is now the part giving us the circumference where we are attaching and the fullness drawn out this way. So I'll go ahead now spreading it out. So here we are spreading it out already. So all we need to do will be to now fine-tune these ends like so, and we are done with the pattern for the flounce, which we just go ahead now to place on our fabric. And I'll simply cut out. So here is our circumference, the part that we are attaching it like so. So I'll go ahead now to cut it out. So here is the final outcome of the pattern for the flounce, and you will still cross check the circumference, the measurement of this place will still be back to our 16, because we were having 16 before we now further slash the lower part. So measuring it now, we are still having our length. You can see 16 here, which we actually aligned with the skirt where we actually want to place it. So for the fabric, I'll be using this white fabric as well as the fabric for the main skirt to finish it off, because finishing up the edge of your flounce might be difficult except you are using the baby lock weaving machine to finish it off. If you want to actually sew it, it's going to be difficult. So it's best to always double the fabric, sew it in so that this construction will not be showing. So I'll be using this white with the black skirt fabric. So this is what we'll have. I've used the pattern to cut that of the white fabric like so, and when placing to cut the other side, make sure it's pairable, right side on right side or the wrong side on wrong side, and check out for your green line as well. So go ahead now to cut. Then let me just raise this up for you to see the effect. You can see what we already having like so. Here's the lower part, here's the upper part. By the time we attach it to that same line, of course it will fall over this way. So let's go ahead now to cut that of the other fabric. So now we are done with the drafting and cutting out of our fabrics. So we'll go over to the sewing machine now and start sewing, installing our zipper, constructing our darts, and finishing up the waistline, and also preparing this flounce. So here we are. The back piece has been sewn, the zipper installed, the dart constructed, and the facing has been attached this way. And for the sides, we have gone ahead to overlock to having neat finishing. So this is what we have on the wrong side. So for the front piece, here we have, I've only sewn about 3/4 of an inch from the waistline downwards, so that I'll have tolerance allowance to attach my face in, and of course we'll be attaching, imputing the flounce at the inseam. So here is my flounce already prepared this way, so that it doesn't have any right side or wrong side. It's just prepared like so, and I'll be going ahead now to attach this way. So while sewing this part, I'll just fix it in like so, and this is where it's going to end. So this now will be falling over this way, and for the hem we'll be using our hand needle and thread to hem it, or you could use your hemming gun to finish it up. So let me quickly attach the flounce along the inseam this way. So here we are. The flounce has been attached, as you can see, and by the time we press now, everything will relax. You can arrange whichever way you want it to, whether the white part coming first or the black part coming first. So that's how we go about the preparation and the attachment, like so. So you simply press it flat. So I'll quickly go and do the sewing and joining the back with the front and doing every other finishing. So here is now the final outcome of our pencil skirt with flounce attached to one side of the front, like so. The flounce has been pressed down, and here is our slit at the front, and the waistline had already been finished up with our face in. Zipper installed, and this is what the wrong side looks like. All the side seam had already been pressed flat, like so, and the hemline, I actually used my hemming gun to finish it up so that it will be seamless at the right side. So here is it, neatly finished. I'm sure for those who are too ready to wear, this is a quick one for you. Once you draft your pattern, you can still use that pattern to do multiple designs, modifying it and producing several copies of the garments. So for the facing, I actually had to stitch it down at the side seam so that it's not flipping back and forth, like so. So it's well secured that way. So when you are doing it, make sure it's not reflecting on the main fabric on the right side, just the seam. Just stitch it down like so. So that's how to go about the production. I'm sure you have learned a lot from this video. Kindly subscribe to this channel, and we also have paid classes that you can actually join so that you understand how to go about your flounce very well. In our paid classes are more of fundamentals, learning how to do your dart manipulation, learning about flounce, about flat collar, contouring, and several other hot topics like that. So you could actually join our paid class for more insights. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.
Lapery College of Fashion, raising professionals.